the psychology of the entrepreneur, what they want, and the business is their vehicle to create wealth, enjoy work, and make an impact. And if I can help them get more of that by bringing them knowledge, I don't have to feel like an imposter that I don't know coding or steel fabricating. I mean, it's just that's just the business is just a vehicle.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Leads to Growth. Leads to Growth. Yeah, let's do Leads to Growth. Why not? I'm your host, Chris McCoy, and we are here with my man, Ryan Tansom from Arkona. Ryan, how you doing today, sir?
Chris, how are you, my friend?
My man, I'm doing great. Ryan and I had a great intro call last week, and we're eager to jump back on the call together and catch up. A lot of good alignment and great conversation we had. So excited for this conversation, buddy.
Yeah, me too, man. I was, like I said, jumped down like, yeah, I'm excited for this.
Absolutely. So you know what? I always give a little brief intro, but Ryan, I love what you do with Arkona. We have a lot in common around becoming investable in the path to that process. Tell people a little bit about Arkona and what you do at Arkona.
Yeah, man. So Arkona, we have a program called Intentional Growth, Chris. So the tagline is how to view and run your company like a financial asset. And we have three primary lines of business right now. We've got a training program, we've got in-person boot camps, and also a virtual option given COVID. So we've got this training program based on 5 principles that teach people how to view their company as an asset, how valuations work, how they can grow the value, financial management strategies, and then exits. So that's the intentional growth training. And then we've got a financial dashboard offering. And then we've got a fractional CFO services where our CFOs integrate into the company as if they're permanent. So they're, running on L10 meetings if they're running EOS, and helping the owner actually grow the value of their business, not just top line revenue.
And that's what we're here to talk about today, is grow the value of your business. I find so many beautiful similarities in a lot of the work that we do in our other company, Envision You. We do a lot of culture work. And you talk about culture, and culture is just the expansion of the identity, right? An individual has an identity, a company has a culture. Becoming investable is becoming valuable, is becoming. It's not getting, right? A lot of people want to get, they want to get the sales, they want to get this, they want to get that, right? But you're not becoming more. When you look at your finances, a lot of people live their life in the liabilities column. Even when talked about, what do you have? What assets do you have? They talk about their liabilities sometimes, oh, I got this house. Well, that's not really, I got this car. Well, that's not really, and you start looking at the way people think and the way that people appreciate themselves, the way people appreciate life, but then also the way people see and appreciate their companies, and what you appreciate. So as you become in this world of where you want to grow your business, sometimes people find themselves in just a little successful place and they want to take that to the next level, but it takes more of a structure. Sometimes it takes more than your current place or identity to get it there. And that's what you help people with. Am I correct, Ryan?
That is correct, man. It's like, why are you doing this and where are you going? Like, make it worth it, right? Don't just do all this work and then show up one day after all that time, money, and energy and not have the options that you want.
Exactly. And how many people out there go to start a business? I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and, I've heard the term serial entrepreneur. I've heard the term, all these phrases, right? And what does that mean? That means you're a person who created another job for yourself, right? Because
Generally speaking, right? Unless you're a serial venture capital,
there
then
we
that
go.
just
Exactly. And so I love this concept of expanding your identity, expanding your understanding, and really looking at what's the one thing you need to do when you want to grow your own value or financial wealth, is you have to start looking at where you're investing it. What is your budgeting? What is your plan? What is your strategy? And you all give people a great structure to use that. So how did you get into this world of helping people uncover their why and take a company that's successful and make it valuable?
So the very easy story. I just woke up one day and all these ideas came to me. No, I'm just kidding. So I'll try and be succinct with it, Chris, but it all started with my family business that my dad and I had, and he started our business his business, I should say, back in the early 90s, and it was copiers, man. So talk about sales and culture and all that stuff. I mean, he mortgaged our house, bought a bunch of copiers, and next thing you know, he sold them all and just kept doing that year over year. And we topped out at 21 million in revenue, 115 employees, 3 locations, and it was all revenue. Like every month we had to hit our revenue targets. It was 400 phone calls, 15 appointments, 7 net news, a couple of client reviews, and 40 grand in revenue every single month for all the salespeople. My point is, it's the vanity metrics. Those are important because they help the machine go. But what happened was in 09, when I had started full time, the financial crisis hit us in a unique way where the margins on the equipment dropped out and just the bottom dropped out. So we had to turn the business around over the next 5 or 6 years. New accounting system, new ERP system, new branding, build out the managed IT services, sold a couple of the branches, trying to become that B2B tech player that we knew we needed to be. But what happened was my dad and I never knew the stuff that you and I were talking about. So we were growing, we were turning the thing around, and it kept going like, what should we do with this thing? Like, I mean, it was always solving for annual cash flow, which is what I call a lifestyle business, Chris. Even though we're 20 million, it's like salary, distributions, and perks. How much can we suck out of this company? Because next year you start all over again.
A
Versus saying,
lifestyle business.
hey, like, what
Yeah.
if we reinvest for growth? What should the value of this asset be at a point in time in the future? And we just didn't have that perspective. Sold the business in 2014 because we felt trapped. Learned a lot of hard lessons, man, which is why
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm doing, because we were focused on the wrong things.
And I love that because, so many people out there, you want to start a business. I mean, the world's changing right now, right? Like a lot of people left their comfy job or their job that they were doing whatever, and then it just didn't make sense anymore. So maybe they're sitting at home, or maybe they're doing some side gig work or something like that, but they want to do something. I don't know, they want to start a business. Well, I mean, yeah, you've got to figure out a way. And I know these aren't the people that you work with. You work with them after they get to a scale where they've got that business to a successful place. But every person starting a business has to have a model. You've got to have a vision, and you can waste a lot of time and effort
Oh my God.
not having that plan and idea ahead of time, right? Right.
Well, and yeah. And I would say, like, for the CFO services, for sure, it takes a certain amount of infrastructure and size to need that. However, the training is just like, hey, if you quit your job and you're going to now be a freelancer, like, you have a small business, right? You're doing some services or something like that. But the reality is, Chris, Apple and Amazon have 3 financial statements: income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. And so does the laundromat down the road. So when's the right time to know how this stuff works? Is, I would say, before you pull the ripcord and start. And again, what's the intent? Because there are 27 million entities in the US that are privately held. 21 million of them, this is from the US Census Bureau, 21 million of them have no employees. So there's only 6 million companies that have employees out there. And I think the big question is, like, are you trying to solve for annual cash flow? Then fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There are good consulting firms, good, like small shops where they're making a lot of good money. But I think the big risk is, Chris, when you're sitting down in your CEO peer group, whether it's Vistage, EO, you name it, your mastermind group, a conference, and you get the flashy object syndrome. We're like, hey, Chris, you should invest in this and you should do that. Well, now you're burning your cash that you could be taking and putting in your pocket. And my question is, why? Like, are you going to do this to build an asset that has equity down the road? If not, you should hopefully know how to do that and how that works and what grows value and how valuations work. Otherwise, you're just totally guessing, man.
Absolutely. And it's with the freedom and opportunity now, the way it is, I mean, everybody should have their own side business or their own side hustle. And with the way the internet and the way the world's connected right now, anybody has a chance to take that side hustle, that side business to a global level. I mean, there's stories all the time. I mean, I think Kendra Scott is a local designer here, jewelry designer here in Austin, and she's got a $500 million brand right now or
Isn't that
something like
crazy?
that. It's bananas, and it started as just a local little jewelry store she used to make out of her, on Etsy and stuff like that. So, I think the idea is, and these things don't happen by accident. And I think that's the one thing Ryan's saying is that, look, yeah, you can stumble upon a success, but it's much easier if you know what to expect, if you know what you're looking for, and you follow some good training. And now you've got something to build for directly. So Ryan, tell me about, what are some common mistakes people make who are finding success in business, but maybe not, maybe still don't have an investable company.
They don't know how valuations work, Chris. I mean, I'd say that truly at the end of the day, I mean, if you think about it, if you and I bought a commercial building, or if it was a multifamily house or a house that we're going to rent out, we have an idea like, why are we buying it? Well, we're going to buy it so we can do some things to it and grow the value of it. Like,
And a
why else
single,
would you do
how
that?
do I know the value? I get an appraisal.
Yeah.
It's a
And like,
very simple process.
And there's a bunch of misnomers about business valuations out there. I mean, because we all talk about, and here's a concept I want to throw out there for the audience, Chris. Like,
Yeah.
so when people think about valuations, people usually get paralyzed and they think about fair market and then book value and equity value and enterprise value and like all these different terms. But the reality is, there's like, I love to try and make break down the complicated, make it simple. And there's two different lenses to think about valuation. So the first one is the value of your business is based on the risk of the cash flow. And so the more sustainable, predictable, and transferable the cash flow of your company is, the more the company's worth. So this intrinsic financial value, Chris, is truly saying like, hey, if you have $500,000 in cash flow, what's the risk that it's going to be there tomorrow, end of this year, next year, and 5 years from now? Well, someone's going to pay you a multiple, 1, 2, 3, 10, based on that's how many years of cash flow they're willing to give you based on the risk. That simple. But my point is to view the company, and you don't have to sell the damn company to understand that valuation. So by measuring and monitoring and growing the value of the business based on the risk of the cash flow is what's in everybody's control. I'm going to compare that to what we call strategic transaction value, where there's a buyer and a seller that come to the table. So that was, let's say it was you and I, Chris, buyer and seller.
Yes, sir.
We bring the people, which is us, and our intentions, our motivations, the emotions, and all the crap that humans bring. And then the value of the business that starts at the intrinsic financial value could go up for a premium because of synergies, because of IP, because of cross-selling, whatever it is, there's a premium, but it started at a math equation, man. Or it's a discount. Like I've got clients where family businesses, the parents don't need the liquidation, don't need to monetize the company. So they actually gift the kids the business through a bunch of elaborate estate planning, but it starts at a knowable number. People just go, well, someday I'll figure out what my company's worth when I want to sell it. I'm like, so you just did random stuff.
Yeah.
For years, having no idea.
Yeah. And that's just playing in the dark. Yeah. And you know what? It's very interesting because as you talk about the exit, most people don't get to the exit until they get to the growth, until they get past that growth stage. And I know that's something that I mean, y'all have a podcast called Intentional Growth. I mean, this is what you do, Ryan. So I know you guys have a 4-step process for this, and I like that concept of it. But tell me about the 4-step process to intentional growth, that framework that y'all use.
So, and if we're talking about the process, there's 2 components. I'll take a step back for a second, Chris. So there's 5 principles of intentional growth that help people shift their mindset away from annual income towards viewing the equity of the value of the business. And so these 5 principles help with the mindset shift. Our process, and I don't need to, I mean, we can go into it if you want, but it's more about how do you onboard into essentially our services. But I don't need to do a commercial.
No, this was the conversation that we had earlier when we talked about our alignment, when we talked about the 5. You said the first step. Yes.
Yep. The 5 principles. So this is based in the training, Chris, is based on the 5 principles. So the first one is your drivers. What do you want from the business and why? Really figuring that out. The second principle are your financial targets. And there are 3 of them. One is your target annual income. The second one is your outside net worth. And then the third one is the equity value of your business. So that's essentially putting context towards the value of the company as an asset. The third principle are your exit options. And there are 5 main buckets that we have them in. And it's ESOPs, private equity, strategics, internal, and acquisition entrepreneurs. And this is not about selling, Chris, but it's about saying, hey, if I wanted to monetize this business at a point in time, how are these different exit options going to value the business? How am I going to get my money? And what is going to be the impact on my role, my leadership role, pre and post closing? The 4th principle is increase value, which is now that you know what you want and why, and where you're going, what your options are, Now you can focus on growing the equity value of your business by de-risking the cash flow.
It's that awareness that that last step provides. It's the awareness, knowing what is the value, what are my options, and I think
Where am I
that is
going?
what you
Where am I going?
exactly.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and then the fifth principle, Chris, is your team of advisors, where you don't have to be an expert in all this stuff. You have to be the general contractor, the one that's coordinating all the people. So the people in your team, whether it's your CFO, your banker, your wealth manager, your consultants, you're getting everybody to row in the same direction instead of just complete chaos and people working on random stuff.
And I love that. I want to speak on the first and the last there, because you started with vision. What do you want? Where are we going? And that's something that we talk about all the time. It leads to growth in the NASP. Our programs, our certification programs, are all about taking you from where you are to where you want to be, right? By building habits and identifying the habits that aren't working, and then getting the habits that you want and replacing them, right? But when you want to know where you want to go and how you want to get there, when you want to get somewhere, you first have to know where you want to go, right? You have to know where that place is. And the crazy thing is that when you know where that place is and you don't know how, you've never been there before, you're often going to find and encounter things that you've never seen before. You're going to have uncertainty, and that's when it takes a great outside perspective. That last step that you talked about, when you're treading waters you've never been in before. Yeah, you got to trust, right? But it's also nice to have a nice guide, to have a mentor, to have someone to support, to have somebody walk you through it. That's why I love our program so much. But that's also why I love what you talk about. What you do is, hey, look, yeah, you are still the one, and it's okay. But sometimes you got to get out of the way so the company can rise and take on a different role, and also bring on other people to help you see the areas that maybe you don't see, because your time can only be divided up so many times.
Well, and it provides context, Chris, for decision making. And I think all of this became so clear to me over about 10 years. So it was not immediate, but
simply overnight, y'all.
Yes. Yeah, another 20-year overnight success. But my point is, how many times the listeners that are tuning in, if they're running a business and like you meet someone at a conference or you interact with someone at a networking event, you're like, that person is a rock star, VP of sales. They're too expensive for me, but I want them on my team. I should give them equity. Okay. I don't know. Should you? And like that, the amount of times I get that conversation, and then there's a slew of other conversations, but let's take like the framework.
I
Well,
love
if
this.
you wanted a $10 million equity valued company in 2030, that would be for Chris. Okay. So if then Ryan is going to be getting 25% as your rockstar VP of sales, you need to make sure the equity value of the whole business is greater. And it should hopefully be great. Well, it needs to be greater, or it needs to be faster. Otherwise, why the hell do it? Right. And then it's like, okay, well, how does that impact my distributions and salary along the way? And then like, why? And what is the purpose for this? Then you go to your team and go, is this the right structure? How do I design this plan? But the intent is this. Then you can delegate to your team. So like the technical nature of that structure should be easily presented with a couple options versus the amount of time people just think about, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I?
100%. And look, you're still the decision maker. You just get to make a more educated decision now. You just get to make a decision based on more information.
Based on what you want.
Exactly, based on what you want. I love that. So Ryan, we've got a ton of salespeople out here, and all our salespeople are entrepreneurs. They're all doing this. They're all hustling on their own, right? Yeah, every salesperson's building their own business. It's really in the essence. But tell me how sales has gotten you to where you are today. Tell me some aspect of sales that are maybe were prevalent in your sales, but also have carried on in your other areas of business as well.
Like sales is like completely I think I completely I owe sales to who I am. I don't know how else to put it. So psychology, I mean, getting the absolute crap kicked out of you every single day. I mean, I've been in sales my whole life, right? So the amount of times you go out and you present an idea and someone kind of looks at you weird, like, that didn't work out very well. And so like, I always say, like, when people are like, oh, Ryan, you invented these 5 principles. I'm like, I didn't invent it. The market did. Cause I went on thousands of meetings and I would present something and it didn't work. And there was 6 principles at one point. So like, it's a combination of psychology, listening to what the clients need and want. What are the problems that they're trying to progress towards, so I can help them progress towards their goals, not feature and, a product dump. And I mean, the amount of books that I've read because of all this stuff, but I think it's every salesperson's had that day where like it's just an emotional roller coaster. You walk in, you get the crap kicked out of you. Someone says that they're not going to sign and you thought they were 95% closed. Then you go to lunch because you lunch at 10:30 because you're sad. And then at 1:00, you get the random, prospect that said yes, that you had called 20 months ago. It's just being able to handle that, and then knowing that you work a plan and that the numbers are there. And as long as you listen and do the right thing, I don't know, man. I think those are all entrepreneurial lessons and salespeople lessons.
Yeah, I completely agree, my friend. Sales and influence seems to cover every aspect of everything that we do. I got another question for you that I get a lot. You know, you're a very successful entrepreneur, with the family business that you help support, and you have experience in dealing with $1 million companies, but yet you also consult some companies that have done some big numbers as well, and maybe some bigger things or some different things than you did in the past. How do you approach selling somebody the knowledge and skill set of something that you maybe haven't done yet, and something they're willing, that they're maybe a little, some of them probably maybe you're superior in age, but how do you come into that place with that confidence and bring them confidence in the principles without having the confidence in the story of having to have done that already?
Super good question. I mean, we're tackling the imposter syndrome, and I know there's a lot of that term's been beaten down a lot this last handful of years, but I've had it too, Chris, man. Like it took me years to figure out that, like, I mean, I was embarrassed at what my dad and I went through. I mean, like truly, like, hey, we sold this business, but we messed a lot of stuff up. And then I was like, well, a lot of people are in the same boat. And like, so it's a combination of more exposure, realizing that like what we've been through and what I know is actually pretty common. So then, honest to God, what I did is in 2015, I started the podcast because, like, I'm 27, and this was almost a decade ago. 27, no one's gonna believe the story I just went through because I kept getting the looks. So, like, hey, you're just a kid, and like, listen to this story, and like, holy crap. So I started the podcast so I could just like explain week after week stories, and people could get to build a relationship with me. So the podcast helped essentially build that confidence, get my exposure to really smart people, but then also realize that, Chris, like one of my favorite things about what I do as a salesperson, and truly like the audience will listen to the or probably appreciate this, is I really am passionate about the material and what we do. And so I know it truly helps. And like we didn't invent any of the material in the training. We organize it in a way that's beneficial for others. So it's truly almost more like preaching, Chris. And like, so I was having happy hour with a friend of mine. He's worth well into the hundreds of millions of dollars last year. I mean, or last week I was having a happy hour with him, and like, I'm not worth that much, just to be clear. But what happens is by understanding business and money, Chris, I am not jealous whatsoever, because that gentleman, I know how wealth is created. So I know that that gentleman made decisions over 30 years that led him to where he's at. And you don't just get there. So having a respect for the grind and what people do, and then just saying like, hey, here's how, like, it's like me teaching like a game. So like, I'm like, here's how it all works. Here's how financials work. Here's how the valuations work. I don't care what you do with it. So I'm not a specialist in IT, a specialist in steel fabricating, but I know the psychology of the entrepreneur and what they want, and the business is their vehicle to create wealth, enjoy work, and make an impact. And if I can help them get more of that by bringing them knowledge, I don't have to feel like an imposter that I don't know coding or steel fabricating. I mean, it's just that's just the business is just a vehicle.
Absolutely. It's so funny. The consultant is the business psychologist almost. It's just really helping them see themselves, helping them get out of their own way sometimes. But to have that ability um, to take your lessons, to take your victimhood. I'm sure at some point you felt you were a victim to the whole circumstance
Mm-hmm.
of the industry and of the collapse, or just the handling of the business. But then to take that and go, oh no, I'm now leveraging that lesson, that
Mm-hmm.
learning, that knowledge to move forward. And this is, I think, a great opportunity for everybody. A lot of family businesses out there that people are like, I don't know. But hey, go for it. Give it a run, learn, grow, experience something. It's better than doing nothing. And also, hey, you don't have to be doing, you don't have to be the only one out there doing it. You know, it's not like Ryan and Pops were the only ones selling copiers, but they still put up some monster numbers, right? You know,
Oh, we
and
were like, well, yeah, there was a lot of big, way bigger companies in the market than
yeah,
we were.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think there's so much to be said for the just the knowledge and the experience. People, you know, they're always waiting for the perfect experience or waiting for everything to be right. It's not always going to be right. You can know what right is, and you can know it's not right, right? And I think that's a good thing
It's
sometimes.
there's two stories I'm thinking of, Chris, that are just like right in line with that. One is that this manifests it's all the way down to like in the bullpen in sales. We're like, how many people listening in have woken up and said, okay, today's telemarketing Tuesday. I'm gonna rip out my 200 and some sales calls. You show up early, go get your coffee, then you clean your desk, then you clean your Rolodex, or you go sort through Salesforce, and then now it's break time. Then you go like chat with your person, chat with your coworker, and then you come back and like you just move things around without actually acting. And like, man, I've done it, right? And like, you
Oh
just
my
go and you just pick
gosh,
up the
dude.
phone. It's 2,000 pounds. Go get the crap kicked out of you. There's good things on the other side. And entrepreneurship is the same way, man. Like, we have to be iterating constantly and listening. Does the product pricing fit happen? Are we solving the problems that our clients truly have? And do we actually know who our right client is and what their problems are? So, I mean, I don't know, man. I like there was this, I'll use the PG version, but it was on Instagram. There was this old guy. It was like a reel, and it said there was like a XY axis, and he was like, the more you F around, the more you learn. So it was like one was F around and one was learn. So the more you F around, the more you learn. And I was like, that
Nice.
is so great.
I love that. I love that. And it's so funny too. I never really thought of the analogies of cold calling, and, you know, the example of life, right? Like, yeah, like the baby. The baby doesn't get up and try to walk the first time and then fall and go, nope, that's it. Not gonna,
Yeah,
I guess I'm just
I'm just
crawling
gonna
for the rest
sit
of
in
my
here
life
forever.
now.
Yeah.
We over, we out, right? And nobody around the baby goes, oh my gosh, don't try that again. No, they come on, you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it,
Mhm,
everybody. But then later in life, it's like, oh, you fell. Well, you shouldn't do that again. Oh, you know,
mhm.
everybody trying to protect you. And same thing with us. We're like, oh, I fell, it hurt. I don't want to do it again. But this is what life is all about. And when you embrace the hurt, when you embrace and don't focus on it, you just allow it and you focus on the growth, the learning, the knowledge, the beautiful analogy of a silver lining. You appreciate the fall because you appreciate more
Well,
the
life is a
getting up
journey.
again.
Well, life is a journey, Chris. I mean, the amount of people have been on my show that have exited and, now they've got a crazy amount of money in their pie chart of Charles Schwab that's colorful, but no purpose. Like, it's a
Yeah.
problem, man. So this whole point of like, we think that entrepreneurs want three things: create wealth, enjoy work, and have an impact. And it's the intersection of all those. Because if you pull one of those out, you could be making a lot of money, having a lot of fun. And at some point, you're going to wake up and go, why? What's this all for? Or you could
Absolutely.
be having a lot of fun, making a huge impact and making no money. You're going, I kind of need to be rewarded for this. So like, I think it's just trying to, like, going back to your point about learning, that's how we discover who we are and who we want to
Yeah.
be. And so without doing that, you're just kind of in stasis.
You
That's a
just
hell of
float,
a
yeah.
word.
You're floating, yeah, 100%. You know, we talk about, you know, the trilogy of vision, mission, and identity. You know,
Mhm.
and that mission, that purpose, that why is what pulls you through towards your vision when it becomes difficult, when it becomes
Mhm.
tough, when you have to change, right? And that's when you don't want to. No, I'm me, I don't have to, I don't want to. No, you have to, because why? Well, because you have that why. And that why and that vision are what drive who you are. And that's what defines, and that's what allows us to grow. Because what happens is the vision is there, the mission is there. These two things are stable. What's changing? Let's put them on top. What's changing? It's the identity. The identity has to
Mhm.
rise to create that perfect triangle. But the
Mhm.
identity is
Mhm.
the one that's got to grow to the vision and mission. And if that mission isn't there, you're not gonna go through the work or
Wait,
the
are
trouble.
you familiar with Adam Grant at all?
I
Adam Grant?
follow him. I've read several of his books, and I
Yeah,
follow him. Yeah.
The Think Again book. I can't remember how he words it, Chris, but it's something along the lines of like what happens with a lot of people is they get stuck to their identity. So like in all
Mm.
of their opinions of their identity. So when they need to change their opinion and who they are, it's impossible versus being focused on their purpose and the vision, and then allowing themselves to evolve. That it's something along
they
those
they
lines.
they adopt the identity as a label as
Mhm.
opposed to fluidity. You know,
Yeah, 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 exactly.
the idea that the look at the river. You know, the river is never the same water that you're looking
Mhm.
at. It's continually flowing. That's what makes up the river, is that every time you look at that same place, it's not the same water that was there
Mhm.
before. Same thing with a waterfall. You know, these are fluid flowing things that consistently evolve. Look at a tree. You know,
Mhm.
the tree is different. It's continuously evolving. Look, a leaf. Look at the leaf outside. What
Isn't that
leaf?
believable?
There's a good.
Isn't it something along the lines that humans have, like, all of our cells are completely different within that, like, 28 days or something
So
ridiculous?
no, it's actually 7 years, I believe. It-
That probably makes way more
it's
sense.
actually no, it's actually 7 years, and I don't think I think they kind of disproved the whole thing of it. But no, the idea is that yes, all of our cells regenerate every 7 years, so we are completely new. So I love what y'all do, Ryan. And I love that you take a bit of a spiritual identity and heart aspect to a financial need. And I think
Well,
that's a
I appreciate that, man. It's, if you think about it, money is just a vehicle for someone to get what they want. And the business is a blank canvas for you to spread your identity, learn more who you are with the culture, it's like a playground, man. So as an entrepreneur, we get more abilities to get into the flow state than anybody else because of we're constantly challenging ourselves. And you can build a plan on anything, man. As long as you have enough time and capital and energy. So, like, the intent is way more important because we can build a plan for anything mechanically. So
yeah.
the plan is just a reflection of whatever the clarity of intent or the lack of the person that's driving the bus.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go back to this whole cold calling, but I'm loving this whole cold calling. Like everything in life is about just getting back up and going, right? Oh, you fell, good, give it a try. Cold calling is so much like this, that yeah, it's an analogy of life. If you're not having fun in this little thing where you don't know if you're going to fall, I mean, that's the risk. That's the jump. You get to jump over and over and over all day on a cold call. I mean, if you think about that, what could you do, Ryan, really, that would give you fear and excitement other than picking up the phone and cold calling, dialing over and over and over again all day? What really would give you that type of
Oh, how many people
energy?
in the world would just rather like jump in front of traffic? I mean,
A
like
hundred percent.
it's the same thing as public speaking, man. I mean,
It's
like,
exactly it. But we do all these things. Well, how much do we pay to jump out of a plane to get that feeling?
oh,
Uh,
I'm bungee jumping and skydive, man. It's
have you? Oh
that was
man,
when I was way younger, but I'll tell you what, man, I think I'll check that box and I'm good.
yeah, I'm coming for you, man. Those are still on my list to do. I think I'm gonna get them done before I turn 50. So I got 45 this month. So
You got some time.
yeah, exactly. Oh man. So Ryan, where can our audience follow you, man?
Best place is the website, arkona.io. It's arkona.io. The podcast is out there. We got a financial checklist that people can download. We got more videos and people, I mean, you can consume a bunch of us and our material.
Yeah, definitely. And you want to go to and name of the podcast?
Intentional growth.
Intentional growth, and that's everywhere, y'all.
Yep.
But definitely check them out on LinkedIn for sure. They got a great, Ryan's a great follow, and they put a lot of their podcasts and their videos and stuff on there, so you can definitely follow them. And look, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you want to manage your own finances better as a salesperson, look, you are running your own business as an independent salesperson. You're out there making commissions. You're your own business, so know and understand bigger financial terms and opportunities and objectives, so that one day when you do want to go, you'll be making decisions on what you want to move towards. This is growth, this is education, this is learning. And for those of you who are running businesses out there and are having some success, to start to step up and look at the next level, follow Ryan in Intentional Growth, and I guarantee you get a lot of great
Chris,
knowledge
can
out of
I
that.
we'll drop one more bomb in here? Is
You got room for 2 more bombs if you
okay,
want them, brother.
so I was just gonna say, like, Matt, if you were to place me, this is for all the salespeople or the entrepreneurs out there. If you were
Yes.
to place me as a salesperson at any industry, like as a salesperson, when you're selling to other executives or owners, the only thing that matters is the equity growth of their company. So, like, if you're selling insurance, it's de-risking the value of the company. If you're selling IT, it's building a more sustainable, predictable, transferable cash flow. If you're selling payroll services, if you're selling sales, if you're selling marketing, everything has to do with growing the value of the business. So if you're talking to a CFO, you're talking to a COO, you start talking like this, it changed the game completely as far as what you're selling. And you're no longer selling products and services. You're selling the only thing that they care about, which is what is the value of this company. We all look at the stock market every day, and what's the only thing we care about? The value of companies. So this is the only thing
Exactly.
that matters.
Hear this, y'all. I'm getting loud on this one. Hear this one, y'all. All right, listen, if you are want to speak the language, we talk about the sales terms are mirroring, right? You have a chance, you want an owner to know who you are or to hear you or to pay attention to you. You're trying to cold outreach to somebody, speak their language. And what is the number one thing that they're thinking about all day, every week? What is it, Ryan?
Cash flow and equity value, if they're thinking about it the right way.
Cash flow and equity value. Cash flow and equity value. All right. Y'all, that's what they're interested in. That's what they want to know about. That's what they want to grow, right? And so if you want to know other language that aligns with what you're selling them or intrinsic value that maybe that you're not aware of, or maybe they're not aware of, get insightful about what they're learning about, what's important to them,
I could go
and
so
use that
geeky.
language back on them.
I love it, Chris, man. And like, in even so, when you, I'll choose not
Come
to
on,
go
bring
down
it. Come on,
I
bring
was
it.
gonna say, so there's two numbers to get to the value of a company. It's normalized EBITDA, which essentially is a proxy for cash flow, and then a multiple. When you normalize the EBITDA, you're taking out one-time events. So if I was selling sales consulting services, or if I was selling lean or payroll or manage IT or whatever it is, and there's a one-time onboarding event, it's an expense. So there's less cash this year, but you normalize it. You take that out to get to the EBITDA. So you should actually be growing the value of the company, even though they spent money. So it's called an investment. And if they're actually tracking it the right way, you can actually argue with them, and it's not an expense, it's an investment. I can show you how to do that. I mean, truly, like, I don't know, man. Like,
Hey, all right. Listen, he's giving away all the milk. All right, y'all. First off, I'm definitely having another conversation with Ryan about that, because we about to break in our B2B market, and we've got some great offerings that we want to start talking to people about. And I'd love to have some of that language, so we're going to do that for sure. But Ryan, I got one more favor for you. I want to just leave a little teaser. You got some more value for our people out there, reaching out to executives, some more insights for them. I know you got a couple other hot tips for our salespeople out there, and you wouldn't mind leaving us a little sneak video for one of our newsletters, would you?
no, go for it.
All right,
Absolutely.
I'm sure you,
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a couple hot more. We were talking about a couple other things you left out, so I'm gonna let you save a couple of those and put them on a little video in our newsletter. Is that cool?
Absolutely, man.
My man, dude, I so much fun. I'm glad we got this guy and we're going to talk all week. We got another call already set up next week to talk. So, really love the stuff, Ryan. I thank you for the perspective, and really appreciate all the resources you bring. And the one thing I love, I'll tell you, the thing I really dug about him is that they give everything away. You follow him, you get on the podcast, you listen, you're going to hear all the insight. You're going to hear everything that you need to know. You want to do it right, you're going to work with them and find a way to optimize your talent, your information, and do it faster. That's what,
man.
once you understand what they do, then you say, okay, great. If I can do that faster and more efficiently, I can make even that much more money quicker. It just makes sense. So I love people that aren't afraid to give it away, because they know they do it better.
Helps us build trust, man.
Absolutely,
it's about getting to the big decisions faster.
Absolutely, man. Like, trust, and respect. That's how we do it in sales, y'all. All right, y'all. You know what to do. Make sure you comment, put all those stars down below, and subscribe. Get on that subscription. We'll see y'all again in the next week. Leads to growth, at the National Association of Sales Professionals. And we out, y'all.